so-called Infancy Gospel of Thomas, IGT, or Palatikae in the apocryphal documents that narrate an episode from Jesus' youth from the age of 5 up until he was 12 years, with the exception of the temple narrative based on Luke 2:41 to 52, I think. The episodes are not found in the New Testament. Whilst the deeds attributed to youthful Jesus, such as healing someone, foreshadows those of adult Jesus, they also include numbers of curses and punishment miracles, where Jesus kills and harms those who thwarted him. These punishment miracles tend to taper off as Jesus matures, but it is disputed among scholars whether these changes reflected the transformation on a part of Jesus or of those around him. Also open to question is whether the IGT's early audience would have considered it picture of a punitive Jesus unchristian, or whether this verdict reflects the modern sensibilities. Whatever the case, the IGT proved to be highly popular with ancient audiences, and it was quickly disseminated amongst many of the ancient audiences in Greek and specifically much of the Syriac languages at the Christian world, genuinely across the Greco-speaking Christian world. Now, it is important to mention this because the translations and the litigations of the infancies of Thomas, Gospels of Thomas, or better known as the IGT, didn't fully translate from other non-Christian languages until the 8th to 9th century. The prophet, peace be upon him, was born, raised, and left this world in the 7th century. So my question to most of you Christians is, how do you justify this documentation, which is 1st, 2nd century, translated in Greek and Syriac, that to then be modified to the 8th to 9th century when the first Arabic and other languages from it, when in the fact the prophet, peace be upon him, didn't speak any other language than Arabic, and more importantly couldn't read and write. But of course, don't let this be an overshadow of much historical point of view that the Infancy of Thomas, and don't get that mixed up with the Gospel of Thomases from the Egyptian side, because they are two separate different documents, even if they're considered synchronetically geonotic by nature. We're not entirely sure whether they are geonotic, but we do know that they didn't come from Egypt. They're a documentation that has existed in early Christianity and were considered stories and apocryphries that of Christianity itself. So when you are making comments about the Infancy of Thomas, please be aware that they didn't exist in Arabic until the mid-8th century, mid-800s Common Era, not in the 7th century.